did Majora, the evil that possesses this iconic mask, originate? Well, I may have found the answer, and I found it whilst perusing the Majora's Mask manga. But before all that, some context. The Legend of Zelda series is one of the most critically acclaimed game franchises of all time. Nintendo has very few misses when it comes to this franchise and its long history of making these games. They are, of course, up until very recently, still smashing it out of the park by somehow improving on perfection with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I am just having crazy fun with bomb shields right now, but that just scratches the surface. Anyway, from the Game Boy era through to the recent times on Nintendo Switch, there is one Zelda game in particular that markedly stands out differently to the rest of the franchise, and I am of course talking about the 2000-year release of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The sequel to the 1998 banger that was Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64, Majora's Mask was made in less than 2 years and reused a number of assets and character models from Ocarina of Time. Miyamoto and co. managed to craft a very mysterious story that felt almost outside of the rest of the series. And I mean this in a couple of different ways, and those that have played the game know what I mean, with its theme and overall vibe being that much darker than most of the other Zelda titles. And how the game manages to do this is in its very creepy and peculiar characters, the game mechanics and locales, and together with some of the most somber and sad atmospheric music to create this triumph of tragedy. For those that have not played it, there was no Hyrule, no Master Sword, and no Triforce. But most notably, there was no game, and so the villain that they concocted in the Nintendo labs for this game was, of course, Majora. Now in the game we are told by the Happy Mask salesman about Majora's Mask and how it was used by an ancient tribe in hexing rituals. However, this only tells us that the tribe were the ones that used the mask, but not the ones that created it. As the Happy Mask salesman mentions, no one really knows the true nature of the mask's power. And it wasn't until I bought the Majora's Mask manga, written by Akira Himekawa, that we get an answer to this. You see, whilst the main crux of the manga is what we see in the game, it's what is at the back of the book that is the most curious, and the reason I decided to make this video in the first place. Now, of course, I'm totally aware that this has probably been covered before, but when I first read it, I feel like I had to talk about it. So at the end of the manga is a bonus story, which is described by the author as an original tale that was published along with the second half of Majora's first chapter. He goes on to state that this was due to both the manga series and the game being released at the same time, so they couldn't reference the game itself and instead decided to write this story, which is something symbolic, like a myth. Well, a myth is good enough for me. The story tells of a creature named Majora that lived in a deserted part of the world where time stands still, having been there for tens of thousands of years. And there is a legend that states if someone is able to steal the armor of the beast, then they will obtain great power. And many had come to see if this was true, and unfortunately all were eaten by Majora the beast. Another man appeared, only this one was different from the others. He was a warrior, wise beyond his years, and was drawn to this strange place by the air in the land. And the two have a deep conversation, and the warrior sympathizes with Majora after learning of its fate to be bound by space and time for thousands of years. The creature's pomp and fearsome demeanor drops after being pitied by the man, and then asks the man to end his suffering. The suffering of its loneliness, the suffering of seeing the hopes and dreams of the people it's consumed, the suffering of not existing in the world, Majora asks the warrior to make time flow again in this place. Whoever this man is and how he managed to seemingly enter a place outside of time and space is unknown. However, he clearly is not new to this, as he places down a special drum and begins playing it. It moves the small vibrations in the air, creating time, and Majora subsequently danced to its beat for 3 days and 3 nights. And on the dawn of a new day, the 4th day, Majora finally died, and so did his world. But something, of course, remained. The armour. The same armour of legend that bestows great power to whoever wears it. And so the man, the supposed warrior who travelled to a place outside of time and space, carved a mask out of the armour, sealing Majora's incredible power within it, supposedly to protect those who would feel threatened by the power, so it would not do harm to anyone ever again.
Hey, listen!
Now I could talk for hours on this and other Zelda and gaming topics, and I actually do this on the Video Game Vibes podcast. Join myself and my good friend and fellow YouTuber Grog Games as every fortnight we meet and chat about anything from the latest video game news to anime or creepypastas. And new episodes drop every other Monday, so go and check it out. Link in the description. Back to Majora's Mask. Unfortunately, it seems that the warrior did not keep the mask in a safe place, and as the Happy Mask salesman said, the troubles caused by Majora's Mask were so great that ancient ones had to step in and seal it away in shadow forever. And then the idiot went and acquired the mask somehow, himself, to keep in his giant sack, only to then lose it to the Skull Kid. And so when I first read this story, this bonus story in the manga, I found it really fascinating, as it just gives us a peek into just what inhabits the mask. And it is clear that the creature itself is not what inhabits the mask, but rather the power and evil that the armour it wore possessed. Could it also still have the hopes and dreams of those that were consumed by Majora? We won't ever know that. But it also puts a question on the warrior, the man, who chose to create a mask out of this armour. And he states in the manga it's for protecting others by sealing the power and evil in the mask. However, as we know, those who wear the mask gain that power and are then controlled by Majora's wrath. So was there not a safer carving he could have made out of that armour, or destroyed it altogether? Seemingly not. I guess the final question is it canon? And from what I've read and seen online, it is not. The manga is not canon, and this specific story is stated to be symbolic from the author themselves. But for me personally, I will always refer back to this story as the origin of Majora. So there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode on Majora's Mask. I'd never planned to talk about Zelda very much in my understanding the game videos, but when I found that bonus story in the manga, I was like, this is so interesting. And as I said, I'm sure people have talked about it much better and to greater depth, but anyways, I hope you took something from this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do check out some of my other videos. I post lore videos and deep dives and theories into indies and AAA games, so go and check them out. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.